What is going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka UniqueMazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and I am with my co-host Nelson Blake II. And y'all know, Nelson, this is a special day.
Absolutely. It's the first time I get to do what I always do to you on a brand new channel.
Is that what it?
Baptize the new channel with the blood of my co-host. I can't wait.
That is actually very very honest, because you are very much a horrible human being who does horrible things to people whenever you get an opportunity. And I'm really shocked at myself for allowing this type of behavior to be brought to another, extension of social media. But we have done it anyway. Okay. This is the first episode of At Me Bro on At Me Bro's own YouTube channel. They left my channel naked, sitting in the street, just naked. You understand me? Somebody just said, I got to find a way to put videos on my channel, because I pretty much have dedicated everything to At Me Bro. But it's okay. And I did that while still being mistreated.
Hey, this just creates more room for Slim Pepper Jack on your channel.
So, yeah, but, Slim Pepper Jack is coming. Y'all don't understand. I got a whole fleet of people that's coming. I hope y'all ready for franchise with some fiction. I used to call it franchise fiction. I'd create these little, never mind. Anyway, this is good. This is good. So if you're just watching this, probably not for the first time, because you're probably one of our hardcore people that have carried over, I urge you guys to make sure that if you have not clicked the notifications bell yet on this one, sometimes I know people just subscribe and forget to do that. Click that notifications bell. Also, like this bad boy up with likes. I'm talking about, I want you to hit this sucker with likes like you are Floyd Mayweather hitting Tenshin Nasukawa. Bam! Hit it with a like.
As opposed to like Adrian Broner.
Don't hit him. Don't do it like Broner. Don't do it like do it like Mayweather on Nasukawa. Bam! Hit the like. You know what I'm saying? That's what I need you to do. And then also, I want you to, if you guys share this video, if you think it's cool, throw it up on Twitter. Like, hey, I saw this video, thought it was cool. So we want to grow our fan base, get more people, get in front of more people, and do that sort of thing. So we're not going to waste a whole bunch of time, because most of the people that are watching the show, this is actually our 12th episode of At Me Bro. We got a couple new things for you guys today. I used to do Ask Mazique, but we have changed that to Ask Us Bro. So on Twitter, you can at Me Bro Show, or you can even, if you forget, I'm not gonna just throw you out the street, but we prefer you go to at Me Bro and use the hashtag Ask Us Bro. Any question you got, sports, gaming, go ahead and throw those our way, and we'll go ahead and instead of just me giving the answers, also Nelson will give his answer as well. You probably won't like Nelson's answer, because I usually don't like any of his answers. So
I'm here to save the people, because I've seen some of the madness. You guys don't know. Once again, I try to always bring the At Me Bro audience behind the scenes. There are so many times we'll finish a show, and I'm looking at UniqueMazique's channel. Great channel, by the way. Nobody's perfect, but everybody does some good, and he does that good. And I'll look at some of these answers. I'm like, man, I see why he didn't put that on the show. He was running, but I can't say that anymore. Can't say it anymore.
No, I face it. Let's go. Let's go. Put your hair up and square up. Well, I don't have no hair.
That's all right. We good on this. We no follicle squad on this show. We fine.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So, all right, guys and girls, let's jump into this week's show. And I got to start off. I got some stuff I got to talk about. Now, like I said, if this is the first time you've seen this show, we talk about boxing, we talk about MMA, we talk about WWE, we talk a lot of basketball, we talk a lot of gaming. So understand, things can come from a lot of different directions. The direction I'm coming from now is I don't know how many people saw this, but if you did not see it, I urge you to check the link in this description. Ronda Rousey, current Raw Women's Champion, former UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion, one of the biggest stars in all the sports, pretty much. One of the most recognizable names. She's one of those people that if you're not an MMA fan and you know one or two people who fight in the UFC, you know Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor probably. That's the level of fame that she is, right? Made the transition over to WWE. In some ways, the transition has been somewhat smooth to a degree. Some of her matches have been pretty decent, mostly on the strength of her athletic ability. She's not really smooth at the art yet, because people don't really realize that pro wrestling is an art form, to be able to work in tandem with another person and to make everything look smooth and have people not get hurt. But athletically, she's been pretty good, strong and everything. But she has really struggled on the microphone, like I would say 95% of the time, and never more apparent than on this last episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, I am not the biggest Ronda Rousey fan, but I felt so sorry for this lady on Monday. I'm trying to tell y'all, I'm telling you, if you have not seen this video, because the WWE didn't even post it as a highlight. But if you've not seen this video, check the description. Ronda Rousey in the ring after the Royal Rumble. So she beat Sasha Banks at the Royal Rumble to retain her title. But Becky Lynch, who is probably the biggest star, I would say, right now in the WWE, she is just, her rise has been meteoric. I wrote an article on Forbes and I said that, and she actually even commented on it on her Twitter, so I felt kind of special. But I wrote an article, I said that she has channeled her inner Conor McGregor to become one of the biggest stars out there. And, you know, she stayed in character. It was like the man channels no one. I tried to do her voice, but, you know, it was cool. But she's the one right now, right? Ronda's out here trying to cut a promo that's obviously supposed to reference Becky. She's getting pelted with booze on sight. Like, the one thing you need to know about the WWE universe right now is it's not your father's WWE universe, right? These fans traditionally, the more the WWE thrusts someone out there and says, hey, you should like this person, the more they're going to not like them. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if they're good, doesn't matter anything. If they think that that's who you want them to like, they're not going to like them, even if they would have liked them otherwise, right? Ronda is definitely falling into that category. And it doesn't help that she can't cut a promo with a Ginsu knife. It doesn't help, right? So she's out here trying to do it, and it's just really bad. It's going horrible. The worst thing that can ever happen for a WWE superstar or for any professional wrestling superstar is to allow the crowd to shut down their promo, right? To the point where you can't get through your script. It got so bad, y'all. Listen to me what I'm saying, right? It got so bad that she couldn't even finish the joint, and Bailey, who she was supposed to have a match with afterwards, had to come out and rescue her and end the segment prematurely. I'm trying to tell you, she looked like somebody made her show up naked at church. That's how uncomfortable she looked. It was absolutely embarrassing. And in my opinion, I wrote an article about this on Forbes as well. In my opinion, this means she really needs to turn heel. Because see, here's the thing about Ronda. Ronda's not a warm and fuzzy person. She's not. She's surly and prickly, and she doesn't like talk. She once said that it is a privilege to hear me speak, and that privilege has been abused.
Yeah, and what you say about her personality and the heel turn, I think is true. It almost reminds me a little bit of Kurt Angle when he first came in. If I remember correctly, he first was supposed to be a good guy. He was supposed to be an all-American hero kind of guy, and his heel turn seemed to be the vibe of what people wanted him to be. But obviously, Kurt Angle, much better on the mic, all-time great as far as that goes. And I think in terms of bringing in an athlete, you know, them getting a lot of push, them moving to the top, and then the crowd turning on them, the heel turn is what makes the most sense. But I want to address something that you're kind of indicating about her personality and the way she let them get to her.
Yes.
Any stand-up comedian knows when the crowd heckles you, you either got to keep it moving or heckle them back, right? You can't let them break you. But the thing about Ronda, when she left the UFC, that was what appeared to be the issue. The main thing people were talking about wasn't just that she got knocked out, because in terms of her getting knocked out, a lot of people blame the coaching and the fact that she had a bad camp and that they weren't giving her great advice and that she wasn't in a place to take the good advice that they were giving her at the time. But the thing people were really talking about was how weird all of her interviews were after the fight. She looked like a traumatized person who couldn't handle what had happened. Mm-hmm. That's relevant. Yes. Because this is live trauma, right? Yes. This is the reason people don't like public speaking. This is it. That is literally the nightmare. You know, is that you go and you speak in front of everybody and they all say, humanity rejects you. We hate you. Stop talking or we will continue to express our hatred for you. And a great WWE personality, you know, knows how to take that and because it is energy. Mm-hmm. To use that energy, right? I've seen The Rock get heavily booed because they were angry at him for some reason or another a couple of times during his career. And he's used it, right? Now, it's not fair to compare Ronda Rousey to one of the greatest mic personalities of all time. But we've constantly spoken about how she needs to catch up with personality and mic skills. I think this is the reason that she's so bad on the mic. Because if you look at her interviews while she was champion at the UFC, she was generally an entertaining person that seemed like, man, she should do WWE, right? Like she talked a lot of crap. You know, she had like her hard stances. Like you said, she was prickly, but in a way that was interesting, which would lead her to that quote that you kind of brought up. But after the loss to Nunes, she looked like a broken person in interviews that was avoiding being herself in the interview. Like she felt that being herself would leave her too vulnerable. It
actually started before Nunes. It started after the home loss.
Yes, it did.
The home loss really is what really shattered her self-confidence. And she was really just a piece of meat served up for Amanda Nunes by that time because she didn't even believe anymore. And the truth of the matter is, did Ronda get great coaching? No. But the really what happened to Ronda is what has happened to so many mixed martial artists. The game caught up with her. Mm-hmm. So many dominant mixed martial artists, they came in with a super dominant skill that their competition was not, they were so far ahead of everyone else. And because of them and because of their greatness, they changed the way that everybody else trained. And so now there are people who may be more athletically gifted, but because of your influence, now they've got a level of training because you showed them they needed this.
Yeah.
You know, so you showed everybody that if you can't handle me on the ground, if I take you down and you can't get up or you can't keep my arm, keep your arm, you know, out of harm's way, then it's a wrap. Doesn't matter how good an athlete you are. So now you got people like Holly Holm, who is a trained striker, had been boxing for years, who is a superior athlete to Ronda Rousey, now training for the ground. And now she's doing this. Amanda Nunes was already a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Here, and we saw Cyborg can tell you how heavy her hands are. Yeah. So this is what happened to Ronda. Ronda went through the course that many great pioneering mixed martial artists have gone through.
And I agree with that. But what I'll say is, out of all of those cases, and I'm with you, we've seen this happen time and time again, right? The BJ Penn's out there, right? The game just changed right up under his feet. And all of a sudden he changed from a guy who was supposed to be the best for a long time to a guy who was much more middle of the road. He's still at the top of the card, but you have these expectations and he's not what you expected him to be.
I mean, he's 40 now, but I mean, but BJ Penn had one of the greatest careers in the history of mixed martial arts.
He did. But
I don't think the game ever passed him by. I think he just got old.
That's arguable. But what I will say is, for all the guys that we've seen that happen to, I think Ronda is the one that looked the most shaken, even weeks, months later, in an interview that wasn't even about the fight. You could see, as long as they were talking about whatever they were talking about, commercials, movies, what dress she was wearing at this time, at this premiere, whatever, she was okay to answer the questions. As soon as they said the word Have you thought about going to the UFC, or are you done? Her whole demeanor would change.
Yeah, it's very defensive.
Yes, and she was unable to discuss it. So it was more than just the fight loss. Because I've seen people get knocked out real bad and say, I got caught, I need to fix it, and blah, blah, blah. But they're still the same person. They just went through something bad. I still do not recognize her compared to the person that I saw pre-Holly Holm.
It's you know, it's fun. It's something, man. I think we throw this word around a little bit too much, because I think it just gets blanketed over a lot of different situations. But a lot of it is, and I don't want to demonize her in this way, because I don't think that this is the word I'm going to use. I don't think that's what she is, but I think that there's some traits of it here. It's very much a bully mentality, a front running mentality. When you don't find out how really tough a bully is until somebody punches them back and they lose. Because oftentimes you see like a bully in a school and they're handling everybody. And then this one kid steps up and pow, knocks them down. And now suddenly nobody's scared of them as much scared as they were anymore. But the proof is in how tough that kid really is how he behaves or how she behaves in the next fight. Right? In the next fight. And Ronda was never the bully again. After being dropped, she was never the bully again. And I think to kind of wrap this back into what we were originally talking about, she's not a very mentally strong competitor.
No.
And that is what you're seeing. You don't find out how strong you are as a competitor until you lose. That's when you find out how really strong you are. And something else that I touched on with Ronda some weeks back, I wrote about her, is that she's dealing with something that she hasn't dealt with professionally, maybe ever, and that's rejection. You know, she's being rejected by the crowd and she doesn't know how to deal with it. And also, it doesn't help that she has other options. You know, Ronda can say, well, you're booing me, I'll go do a movie. Because
so do you think it's possible that she would leave or take a break?
Well, that's the rumor now, the heavy rumor, and this is why she's getting more prickly. And this also might be the reason why the crowd turned so hard on her, is because the rumors are that she's leaving after WrestleMania because she wants to start a family. She wants to have a baby. And so she had a really kind of nasty response to people who asked her. Someone asked her, are the rumors true that she's leaving after WrestleMania? And her response is, it's my vagina and my life. So I mean,
I understand where she's coming from.
No, I don't have a problem. I totally understand that part. But what I'm saying is she's really about it.
Yeah. Well, it's the defensiveness. It's what we go to is the defensiveness. Like, it's one thing, because it's one thing if she says that while she's laughing and she takes the time off and she's like, look, she's 31 years old. If she doesn't have a baby now, literally every year after next year, the chances of the baby being, totally healthy go down percentage-wise. It's just the reality of biology, right? The prime fertilization window is what it is. So she's doing the responsible thing. She's got a fella she's been with for a very long time. They're married, right? They've been married for a bit. I know they were engaged for a while. They were engaged for a while. So that's not the issue. The issue is how defensive she is about it.
About everything.
Right.
And this is why I just don't know. To me, I think it would be a lot more pressure off of her if they allowed her to be a heel, because some of those really nasty remarks and comebacks that she has, she could use those and it doesn't go. See, that's the thing. Like you were saying, using the energy, right? But if you have been pigeonholed into saying, hey, you are a face, okay, so you have to uphold this face. You have to show face traits. You have to act and behave like a face, a traditional face, because Becky Lynch at this point is a face. But if Becky Lynch got booed, she points somebody out in the audience and go, you suck.
If we look at all of the big faces over time, most of them have had big heel turns, right?
Well, yeah, big heel turns. But see, then there's some people that the WWE holds and they say, this person is such a big star, and this is kind of just Vince McMahon's antiquated way of looking at the whole heel face dynamic. This person is such a big star. They're such this clean cut type of a character. They never will be a heel. You know, so John Cena's never been John Cena kind of was a heel at first, but ever since he became John Cena, he's never had the heel turn, and everybody's been kind of waiting on it. The same thing almost with Roman Reigns. He came in as a heel, but he blew up so big, and then they wanted him to be a face, and now people want him to be turned heel, but that's not happening, and it definitely probably won't happen once he comes back after he's been battling leukemia.
Right. They support him too much.
Right. Yeah. So it just kind of is what it is, man. But that was my thing, man, with Ronda. I was so uncomfortable for her. It was
really rough to watch.
Oh my God. I was like watching a fish flop around trying to get back to sea, and sea is like 5 miles away. I'm like, you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. So yeah, but that was tough. Okay, now next up, we got to talk about something that has really been dominating the NBA discussion for probably the last 48 to 72 hours. I mean, we are already talking a lot about Anthony Davis and his potential landing spots for trades, but now word has come down that the dude has legitimately demanded a trade from the Pelicans. From what I understand, this has always been his stance, but he hadn't given his agent the go-ahead to make it public. But now he has, and he actually got fined $50,000 by the NBA for the trade demand. I guess it's violated some sort of tampering law or some aspect of the probably collective bargaining agreement. But yeah, Davis is demanded a trade. Everybody's focused on the Lakers and them getting it done, but I don't think we know for sure where Anthony Davis absolutely wants to play. I don't think we 100% know that. I think everybody's focused on LA, but I really think that there are some possibilities that there's some other places that could come up. I definitely think that Boston is something. New York is something. I've told you before, I think that the Bulls could really come together with a strong package to try to.
And for people new to the show, I told him here he was crazy. So this is not a 100% crazy show. It's only 50%.
I'm trying to tell you, and I'm not the only person. Joe Cowley from Chicago Sun-Times.
From who? From where?
The Chicago Sun-Times. Okay, the Sun-Times.
Consider the source. We consider the source here.
It's cold here. You understand what I'm saying to you? And when it's cold, we think better. Okay, we think more clearly in the cold. And he also said that he thought that this was the time for the Bulls to go just throw everything at this opportunity. I'm telling you, I think but here's the thing. I don't know if Anthony Davis wants to come back and play in Chicago. I don't, and has, regardless of, whether or not the team is good or anything. I just don't know if he wants to deal with that. Playing in your hometown is a big deal, and it's tough, and it's not necessarily for everybody. Mm-hmm. So
we talk a lot about Chicago, B.
I'm just trying to help you out. I want to help you. Because
I'm trying to keep the show clean for the people. The people don't like the Chicago propaganda. You got a Northern Illinois basketball shirt on.
They love it. I'm just
trying. We sold them on a variety show where we cover everything.
This is a variety.
They don't want to hear about your crazy Anthony Davis to Chicago conspiracies.
I'm just saying that the Bulls. This is something the Bulls should be strongly considering. They have nothing to lose. Let them tell you no. Let Anthony Davis tell you no.
You were going somewhere with this.
I'm saying this. That's where I'm going. This is what needs to happen. As far as the Lakers, I mean, Magic. I don't think Magic can afford to make the same mistake that he made with Paul George. Assuming that this guy wants to come play with me, and as soon as he's free, he's gonna come. I don't think he can afford to do that. I don't think that. I mean, we might be seeing a similar mistake being made with Kawhi Leonard. You know, people not ponying up to go get Kawhi Leonard, and the Raptors did
Kawhi was coming off an injury, so that's a little different situation because it was an injury where he didn't play for a year, and people weren't certain what Kawhi they would get, which changes very much because if he comes back 95% Kawhi, you still want him, but you wouldn't give up as much as you would for 100% Kawhi. So I think that's a slightly different situation.
I don't think that tempered the offers for Kawhi, though. I think what tempered the offers for Kawhi was not knowing if he would commit to people because he coming up on free agency. I think that's what really did it. I don't think anyone thought his injury was a injury that was going to last him his entire career and hamper who he would be in the future. I think what really stopped people from opening up and giving major assets was, is this guy going to sign with us? And Toronto gambled and said, you know what? He may not, but
we're speaking of injuries, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Anthony Davis has had a lot of injuries in his career. And I know you have a soft spot for players who get injured all the time, but let's just put that aside for 1 second.
And then that happened. And then that occurred.
Let's put that aside for 1 second.
And then that occurred.
Do you think teams outside of Boston, because Boston has too many assets right now, they have so many assets that they literally can't give them all playing time. Boston aside, do you think these other teams who would almost definitely have to give up something that they want or need should go all out? Now, I'm saying if you could get them for, 75 cents on the dollar, obviously you want it. But it's looking much more like you're going to get them for $2 on the dollar, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Pelicans are only going to let this guy go if you trade at a negative. And if you look at his stats, it seems obvious to say yes. But when you look at his injury history, he is a guy who's one of these people that grew up really late and a lot, right? Like he sprouted from 6'2", I think
6'4",
early high school, shot up to 6'10", 6'11", right? And his body never seemed to fully adjust to it because some people get one injury that's a nagging thing, and then once they get over that injury, they're fine. Occasionally they have to have a tune-up on it, but they're generally okay. We see this a lot with a knee here and elbow there. But then there's guys who turn into the operation man. Is there a part of him that hasn't been injured? I know we have a lot of 2K fans on the show. You know when you go to the injury screen where they look like the guy, I think his whole body red. He looked like he already on the Bulls. Yeah. Covered in red, right? So I would be scared to give up so many things that could be great for my team for a guy who could possibly be a lemon.
Well, all right, here's the thing. Anthony Davis has missed games every season for the most part, right? He has. I mean, he has. He hasn't had a season where he has wiped out an entire year, though. So the most games he's ever missed is 18, and that was as a rookie. Okay. I'm sorry. Is 21. 21 he missed, and that was the 15-16 season. The last two seasons, he's played 75 games. You missed 7 games. Yeah, you missed 7 games in the regular season.
How many has he missed this year?
So he's played 41 games. And how many, let's see, how many how many games have they played? He's played 41 games and they have played, so he's missed 10. He's missed 10 games this year.
And counting.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how many he misses, but he's missed 10. As long as he doesn't miss, 10 more, then he stays under his high. Here's the thing. I think we do know that if you get Anthony Davis, you're probably not going to get more than 75 games out of him, which I think is fine. If to be honest with you, if I signed Anthony Davis to a major contract, the understanding would be, dude, you're playing 68 games this season. That's what you're doing. You're playing 68 games. That's what you're playing. You might as well just assume you're on a 68 game schedule because that's all you're playing.
I feel you on that. My problem with it is that his injuries are all weird. How did that happen to you? Injuries. He literally tore his shoulder dunking by himself.
Well, You know
he didn't
what?
even get hit. He didn't even get hit in the shoulder. He wasn't
gonna,
dunking on anybody. He just
I'm
dunked it and went, "Ooh, I did it wrong." But here's my final thing on this. I think there are a few teams who should sell the farm to get Anthony Davis, and I do think the Lakers are one of them, specifically because he is the perfect complementary star to LeBron James. I've seen people erroneously compare him to Chris Bosh and Kevin Love, but he's not. Those guys were both post-up primary players. Anthony Davis's primary mode of scoring is really Sean Marion points. We don't need to draw up a play for you for a lot of your points. It's not that they can't or won't or shouldn't draw up plays for him, but they don't have to. He's going to get 15 points just from being in the right place at the right time, being athletic, having a good nose for the ball, being super talented, right?
Yeah.
And with LeBron, that's the perfect person for LeBron because he can run pick and roll. He'll be good in the fast break. He'll be good in the half court. He's great defensively, which LeBron definitely needs. And he can hit the three when LeBron goes space, spreads the floor.
Yeah,
outside of the Lakers,
the dude can do everything, bro.
But it hasn't resulted in a whole lot of winning. And I understand people want to say that's not his fault. But I would also say I don't think the Pelicans are a bad team. They've got good players on their team, especially right now. You know, they have had some mismanagement. They probably should have held on to Buddy Hield, obviously. That wasn't great, trading away a young player like that. They didn't hold on to Boogie Cousins after they acquired Boogie Cousins. For whatever reason, everybody expected him to stay with that team.
It wasn't working.
It didn't have a lot of time to work either.
Yeah, it had enough time to be better than it was.
I would say that I think I thought at the time that they should have given that a whole year to work and maybe even taken a risk on it precisely because of this. Because Davis is getting antsy. Him being there and having a good relationship with Cousins, those two trying to make it work, they were alternating nights where they were putting up crazy numbers. Cousins goes for 40, 20, and 15, and then the next night Davis does it, right? The thing about that is no one else had an attack to match that. You couldn't match up with it. So if they could just fill out that roster and figure out their coaching situation, not even replacing it, but just what adjustments needed to be made, they would have had a unique path to victory. They wouldn't be copycatting the Golden State Warriors or the LeBron.
No, it's the new age. It's the new age Twin Towers.
Correct.
This is what they had. So
that mismanagement has put them in this situation. But at the same time, a lot of teams would love to have Drew Holiday. Apparently, Jahlil Okafor knows how to play again.
Well, Jahlil Okafor never forgot how to play. The only problem is he stopped getting opportunities because what his weaknesses are being right now in the NBA. His weaknesses are viewed as the worst weaknesses for a big man to have. Yeah,
because he can't defend, he can't shoot. But he's also
mostly he can't move.
He looks like he's in better shape though, but he's moving better with the Pelicans.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's in much better shape.
Yeah, so that's the thing. They've got him in better shape. I know he's learned his lessons from Brooklyn and Philly and all that stuff, and the coaching has him playing well, right? Really well in the last 5 games. He did crazy the last 5 games.
Playing great.
So here's the thing: they have talent there. I feel like on paper, there's no reason they should be a worse team than Portland, who they swept in the playoffs. I don't know why they're worse than Portland. They don't have bad players. You know, Drew Holiday's a good player. Very good player, actually.
Very good player. One of the most underrated players in the NBA.
Yeah, I think Julius Randle is a very good player.
He's an outstanding player.
Right, and even Elfrid Payton. I know Elfrid's been hurt a lot this year.
And Etuan Moore is a really, really, really strong role player.
Right, and Elfrid is coming along. And if he's been hurt this year, but when he plays, they tend to do well. And it looks like
Mirotic, they've had a lot of injuries. They've had a lot of injuries.
Correct.
And I think that has a lot to do with it because Mirotic is a really valuable part of their team. He's been hurt. Davis has missed 10 games. Etuan Moore has missed a couple games. I think Drew Holiday's missed, and Elfrid Payton's been out. So that's a lot of guys out.
Point being, when they get healthy, if the team doesn't look much better than they are, right? They should look like a team playing from behind, but a team that should make a run. Not to win it, but they should go on some win streaks. They should just be prone for a couple of good 7-8 game win streaks, a couple of 8 and 2, 10 game blocks. They should have that. And if they don't have that, my thing about Anthony Davis is the kind of great that he is. You need him on a team that makes you a championship contender.
Yes.
You don't want to just put him on your team the way you would a Kobe or a LeBron or a Steph Curry or a James Harden, where you say, I know how the offense revolves around you. I don't think the offense revolves around him. I think you plug him in almost like an MVP caliber role player to a degree, where he's just a guy that does everything so well that you don't have to ask him to do anything specifically all the time. And you have another guy who you do ask, you carry this all the time. You are always responsible for this. LeBron James is always responsible for carrying the offense of the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think him and Anthony Davis, you can put almost anything around them, and that team is a handful.
I mean,
right?
if you have LeBron, Anthony Davis, one more guy that can create off the dribble, and two shooters, it's
and in the case of New York and LA, because of both their talent, youth, and financial situation, and in case of New York, the draft pick as well, Anthony Davis going to LA or going to New York is a recruiting tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people want to play in those areas, and all they need is a better reason to go beyond what's there. And this is still even the case of with LeBron. If LeBron had a better reason to pull people, they'd be more willing to go. And Anthony Davis is that reason. But outside of New York and LA, I'm not sure how many teams should really sell the farm to get Anthony Davis. Like, for instance, your Bulls, part of the reason I joke about it is I don't think there's any scenario where, I shouldn't say any scenario, but I think in most scenarios, you guys are better off figuring out your internal structure situation and working on the young talent that you have and that you're going to continue to acquire in the state that you're in. Because you guys are on the Philly path, where in 2 or 3 years, all of your young talent starts to pop, and you guys are in the playoffs, and you haven't even really paid anybody yet, and you're primed to get a major free agent. You bring in Anthony Davis, and now you guys got to start making decisions about how to utilize him now, because he can't have too many wasted seasons.
Normally, I would agree. But the reason with the Bulls I don't think that's a practical path is because historically, the Bulls have never, ever, ever done much in free agency. They have struck out in that area literally for decades, right? Every time the Bulls have ever been good, their core has come from primarily the draft. And then a key trade. Every single time the Bulls have ever been good, that's how it happens.
But my point is that you guys will be building off of your 2 draft picks, who are both good players, Wendell Carter and Lauri Markkanen. And Lauri Markkanen seems like he has a ceiling of a serious all-star.
Struggling really bad right now, but
yeah, but I mean, he's a young player coming back from injury, so I throw what he's doing right now.
I think he's struggling because he can't find how to play with Zach.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of reasons for him to be struggling. He's coming back from injury. He is a young player. He's got new people that he's playing with, a new coach that he's playing for, and your management's in turmoil. So what he's doing right now, I kind of throw out of the window because I think the better evidence is what we've already seen from him.
Yeah, I would agree.
He looks like he has a high ceiling. I'm giving Chicago credit, and you're fighting me. No, this is how we doing at me.
No,
this is how we do.
I'm giving you the real. Understand this? I'm telling you what's from somebody who's watching them all the time. I don't disagree about Lauri. I do. Right. But there's some concerns this year because it's like he can't shoot a skill in the ocean. But I know why. But
here's the thing: between Lauri, Wendell. I would actually say your point guard, is it Dunn?
Chris Dunn.
Dunn. Mm-hmm. And the draft pick you have coming up, that's a lot of young talent that you guys have to focus on nurturing. And what happens is when you get an Anthony Davis, you have to shift that focus at least somewhat. And it's not that you don't want good players, but you're not just talking about getting a good player. You're talking about bringing in a superstar that is in the mentality of, I want to win now. Mm-hmm. You have to accommodate that, even against your best interests, like LA has done.
See, I don't think that it really, here's the thing. There's no real confidence in this current management. First of all, here's the thing. I don't think any of that needs to take place unless the Bulls are going to flip the management structure overall. I really just don't think that John Paxson and Gar Forman are capable of guiding the team to a championship level. I don't think they're capable of hiring and retaining an effective head coach. I don't think that, I mean, they've had umpteen chances to try to do that and they haven't been able to do it. So I hesitate to bring anything of value into the organization because it just doesn't appear as though it's going to be used properly. But if you look at the Lakers, I understand what you're saying, but it really, really pains me to give up Kyle Kuzma if I'm them. Kyle Kuzma is a guy to me who I think no matter who he's playing with, no matter how he has to adapt his game, this guy is going to be a major contributor on a winning basketball team. And if that's what the Pelicans are demanding that I give, and I already have LeBron, and I already have a bunch of stars around the league that I think that I have a realistic chance of luring. Kyrie's talking about he'd be interested in coming back to play with LeBron again, and we get rumors about that. I don't know. I sacrifice Kuzma I would
definitely sacrifice Kuzma, specifically because Kuzma is established as a reliable third scorer in this game on a good team, right? Like he has that level. Now he hasn't proven himself as a defender or a playmaker. That's totally fine as a utility, as a resource. When you're talking about possibly having a core of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving, he becomes an expendable resource. Because you can get another version of Kai, right? And that's my point with the Lakers and the Knicks. You guys can give up something that you would rather not give up. Like everybody's talking about if we get Zion Williamson and blah, 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 you know, that's a different conversation for another day. But people are saying that, like, you know, they just willingly throw away Zion Williamson for Anthony Davis. Now, I'm not necessarily about that. However, it's understandable because if you could in any way get Anthony Davis into New York, it almost guarantees that whatever the scenario is, you will get one or two other people in New York because of how badly people want to go to New York. The upper management in New York is actually very liked around the league. People like Fizdale. They like our upper management, like across the board, except for our owner. You have a pretty good feeling about that in New York. You have a good feeling about that in LA. Most other places, I think Anthony Davis leaves.
Yeah, and I think that's the real fear there. But it's going to be interesting to watch and see how this develops over the next 2 weeks or so. Week or two.
And for people watching, we're not counting Boston because they can't trade for Anthony Davis unless they got rid of Kyrie Irving. And what looks like makes most sense for the Pelicans is to have the entire league bid against the trade deadline, because if it hits the trade deadline, Boston basically wins. Because they're going to keep Kyrie Irving, they're going to get Anthony Davis, they're going to still have some young talent, whoever that may be, and they'll be fine. And they'll have one of the best coaches in the league. They'll be great. So the rest of the league is the one that has to bend over backwards right now in order to prevent Anthony Davis from being traded to Boston.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I think the Bulls ought to throw their hat in that ring, but just what it is. But
it's sad.
It's real. It's so real. It's so real. All right, we're moving on to some combat sports, and we're back kind of sort of. We talked a little bit about Ronda, but the suspensions came down for Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov based off of the melee that happened in the middle of 2018. That we were kind of waiting on both guys to get their suspension, so we'd find out when they would be able to return to the octagon. McGregor got a lighter sentence, a lighter punishment. Got 6 months, and it's retroactive to the event, so he's actually eligible to come back in April, and Khabib isn't eligible to come back for 3 months after that. Khabib did not dig that at all, and he says he is done fighting in Vegas, period. And he's eyeing a return at MSG. And his cohorts, people who were also involved in the brawl, those guys got 1 year suspensions retroactive to the event. And Khabib has said he is not fighting until their suspensions are over, and he'll make his return at MSG when all of their suspensions have been lifted. So interesting turn of events. It leads to a lot of things happening. What was your thoughts when you first saw that come down?
My first thought, to be honest with you, was that the fine was really steep. Khabib was fined $500K, $500,000.
Yeah.
What was Conor fined? I think they fined him like a pair of Jordans and a
Yeah, it's like
gold
50K.
necklace.
I think it was 50K.
I mean, come on, man. You know,
Yeah.
literally Floyd Mayweather has watches that cost
Yes.
10 times that. It's like, that's crazy. So I thought the financial aspect of it was really, really imbalanced. The timing part of it, 6 to 9 months, according to the event, I think you can have a discussion. I also heard that Khabib has the option to like have a hearing and get instated earlier. So it's like a, you know, 6 is 9 but 6 with good behavior or something like that.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is a mess. And the reason the whole thing is a mess starts with Conor, because Conor started with that nonsense incident, actually breaking the law with the bus. And a lot of people put a side eye on that because he was never properly penalized for that. And that was the catalytic event to create genuine acrimony between those two camps, which is why when Khabib was being trash talked after the fight, he wound up hopping over the fence and going after, what's that guy's name?
Dylan Dennis.
Dylan. Right? He went after Dylan because of that history. So even though the moment had passed, and I know Conor thinks that he's just selling a fight with his antics, but once you actually commit assault, you're not just selling a fight anymore. It's one thing to slap a guy's hands down in the weigh-in or get up in his face or push him and shove him at the weigh-in. That's still between you two. Conor actually affected other people's livelihoods when he attacked that bus. That for me changes the response and how I look at the response. And the reason I say it's a mess is because full stop, you have to have a stiff enough penalty that no matter who it is, you discourage people from going into the octagon or coming out of the octagon and going into the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, I am of the opinion that the bus incident was planned, but it got out of hand. I believe that, and this is just my opinion, and based off of some things that I've heard and people I've talked to, I believe that they were supposed to show up there, kind of hype the fight. It was supposed to look organic, but for whatever reason, Conor and his people kind of went too far with it, and it ended up becoming what it was, which ended up, like you said, being a crime. But you said something very important about like who started this and who's really mostly to blame for this whole blow up. And you talked about Conor involving other people, and when he did that with the bus incident, but he also did that, in my opinion, with the racial slurs and the racial comments. Because like you said, it's one thing to stand up at a press conference and to slap a guy's hands down, to get in their face, to push them or whatever. It's one thing to talk about a guy, to say, dude, you suck. You've lost every big fight you've ever had. You look funny. You smell. Your breath stinks. You know, it's one thing to do that, you know. But when you start to insult a person's entire race, then now it has gone outside of just being trash talk.
Let me agree and disagree. As an American, my rule for Americans is we have free speech here. Words are words and punches are punches. And I don't care what this person said. If you threw the first punch, 99 times out of 100, you're wrong. I don't care if they talked about your daddy, your mama, your baby girl. If they didn't touch you, they didn't give you the right to touch them. Until they invaded your personal space physically, you had other options outside of the physical to respond to them. You chose to escalate it. You are the escalator. The thing is, UFC is an international sport, and you cannot ask everybody to play by American rules. And Khabib is a devout Muslim from Russia. They take it differently than when you talk about their religion and their family and stuff like that. It's not just trash talk. That's crossing a line, and they will defend that honor physically. And Conor made it physical first anyway by attacking the bus. So it's kind of irrelevant about words versus physical action because Conor made it physical first by throwing objects, with him and his crew throwing objects at their bus and through their bus. But that having been said, I tend not to like to put anything on the words, because that can still be a matter of handle it in the ring, send words back. But this case is not about the words. It's not about what he said. It's about what he did. And he assaulted, Habib's camp and many people in that bus. So it is what it is.
Well, I mean, I would agree and disagree with what you just said, because it is different for certain cultures. And I mean, it's even different for certain people in the United States. Now, is it right for a person to escalate something because they felt insulted by your words? No, it's not right. But it is a reality that exists. And there are people who, if you continue to poke at them in an area that is a sensitive area for them, they may respond in this way. And Conor knew, it's no way in the world he didn't know. He's not an idiot. He knows that if you come at somebody from a racial standpoint, if you come at someone about their religion, that you're going to incite a certain level of anger out of them.
Yeah. And make no question, we're both on the show aware that Conor went way over the line with a lot of stuff he said.
Way over the line with a lot of stuff. And it's not the first time. It's not the first time. Dance for me, boy. It's not the first time.
Yeah, but he accused Habib's manager of 9/11, which is come on, that's a little worse than Dance for Me Boy, right?
Yeah,
Dance for Me Boy, I could be like, go, do whatever to yourself.
Right.
But accusing a close person of mine of killing 4,000, 5,000 Americans. It's so a little different.
It's different, man.
I bring this up because that's different by law too, right?
Yes,
like if somebody on the street tells me something, that is associated with a racial comment or whatever, and it's derogatory, I'm still by law expected to either respond with my words or not respond at all.
Right.
But if someone accuses me or someone close to me of a crime or an act of terrorism and they're wrong, I actually get to sue them and take their belongings. You see what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. Like, these things are all different things, right? Like,
no, I agree. I definitely agree that I'm not saying that Habib was right to respond the way he did. What I'm saying is that he was absolutely provoked, and that to me, I think that the UFC has a responsibility to police some of these types of actions. And I'm not saying tell people they can't trash talk. I'm not saying that. I understand that's a part of the game. I understand that's a part of sports today. But there are some things that have to be out of bounds, because the fact of the matter is that you cannot control everyone's actions. And especially when you're messing with hot button issues like religion and race, you cannot allow people to just operate in the wild, wild west. Or you get these.
I agree with you, and I think UFC has some culpability there, because I don't think that if you
enabled it, man.
If you look at all religions, I don't think that would have been allowed for every religion and every race for Conor to go as far as he did.
If Conor had talked about Jews and said that Jewish people are this, and if he had talked about black people I agree. As clearly as he did, because the Dance for Me Boy was definitely some racial overtones, and him coming out gyrating and moving his hips, talking about he got something for the black sisters with the bigger behinds, and that was definitely racial too. But you could try to spin that if you're going to try to defend him and try to make that like that, because
there's a difference between something that's racially toned and or religiously toned and something that's an attack, right? So it's one thing to make a comment about black people. Now it's racially toned, but what are you actually saying?
What are you
saying that they're all inferior or they're all criminals? Like, what stereotype are you bringing up? Dance for Me Boy, from obviously history of America, harkens back to a specific thing, but the comment itself isn't specifically saying anything.
I mean,
it's racially toned.
He could play in the weeds with
correct, because it's grayish area, right? It's the kind of thing that if he was black or even half black and he had said it in a more friendly environment, you know he doesn't mean it in a harmful way. But what he said about Khabib's people,
Yes,
there's only one way
there's
to
only
take
way to
it.
take it. It's only, I mean, the
Right.
Dagestani have chicken jaws. Literally, this is what he said. Like, dude, come on, you know.
Yeah.
So whatever. But so I don't know, man. The suspension.
I think it was imbalanced. I think Connor, obviously special treatment all the time, all up and
Yes.
down. It is what it is. I don't have a problem with the timing of Khabib's sentence. It's probably more the disparity between his and Connor's.
Exactly.
I do have a big problem with how stiff Khabib's fine was. I mean, I can't put a number on it, but I don't think anybody would have been like $250K. You're just gonna let him get away with it? Like $250,000 for, you know, a minor scuffle that lasted a few seconds. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Versus Connor's fine, which was basically not even the tax on a fraction of what he earned that night.
Just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But you know, it is what it is, man. It's Connor's world, and everybody else is really kind of living in it. So it's just what it is. All right, so we have another segment that we've been doing, I think, for the last two or three weeks, hot and cold. And I want everybody's feedback all the time. You know, whatever segments you love, whatever, just let us know in the comments all the time. Whatever comments you have, don't hold back. Make sure that you throw those out there. But we got 4 things that we're going to talk. Well, actually, just 3 things we're going to talk about in terms of hot and cold today. Tanking in the NBA. It's a big thing. And we talked a little bit about it during the Anthony Davis segment. But how do you feel about tanking in the NBA?
I feel, according to the structure that the league is in right now, I'm fine with it. But there's a way to tank and there's a way not to tank. How long you tank for, and also whether or not you're trying to build a winning culture, I think is the key. There's ways, I actually think the Knicks are doing a good job of it, to lose without trying to be losers. They're still teaching their players good principles, or trying to. We still have guys developing. A lot of our young players are developing very well. A couple of them have been injured. That's all fine as long as you are not establishing a losing culture. I actually felt Philly, in terms of how they were coached, I said the entire time, Brett Brown's a great coach. These guys are playing hard every night. They just don't have the talent. So in those scenarios, the tanking actually comes from not acquiring the talent necessary to do better. It doesn't come from just being terrible in every way and not teaching your players, not training your players. Because if you're going to be near the possibility towards a top draft pick, better to go there than have to go another year without the proper talent. So I'm fine with that. What I think is the problem is the structure of the league. I think everybody who's not going to make the playoffs, their competitiveness should be rewarded in the draft, not punished. And the people who just can't do better should just be punished by being bad teams. And they should have to change their management or whatever. Too many times management gets away with terrible decisions and the players get blamed for it. And tanking is a way to fix often the bad decisions you've made in the past by just getting a do-over. And as long as it's not 5 years of tanking or something like that, 1, maybe 2 years if you need to do it, I don't have a real problem with it. I prefer my team to tank at least 1 year and just go ahead and get a great player, especially when the draft is as deep as it is this year.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with. I mean, obviously, to me, the structure of the league encourages you to tank. I mean, if you're not tanking, you're probably not winning. You know, I mean, there's a couple teams who could potentially pursue an approach that doesn't require them to tank. I would say maybe New York, maybe LA, maybe Miami, and those are teams that have cities or just, you know, their team itself is a draw from a free agent standpoint, and all they need to do is get one guy to agree to come there, and then if they can get that, then they can roll in other people. Cleveland was in that situation only because of LeBron, because LeBron's connections to the city and so on and so forth. But overall, most years Cleveland's not that team. So for those teams, they have a chance to improve without tanking. But overall, most people are going to have to tank at some point. I do think it would be not only potentially positive for the league, but I think just entertaining overall for fans if there was some extra wrinkle added to,
like an NIT tournament for the teams that are at the bottom.
I
agree.
Bottom, like a secondary tournament, like a play-in tournament or something like that. So like maybe only the top 4 teams in both conferences are eligible for the automatically eligible for the postseason. And then the other 4 spots have to be you have to win in with these small tournaments, so you just basically break it up, and you have all of the other teams that didn't qualify for the top 4. Those teams have to play these small tournaments, and you section them off, maybe even by the division or the region or whatever, and they play these small tournaments, and then that's how you claim the 5th through 8th seeds. I think that would be fantastic.
But I think more for the I think it's more necessary for the lottery.
For the lottery,
because the NBA playoffs is one of the greatest things in sports, as far as I'm concerned.
And you really just be extending it, and then you be shortening the regular season, which I don't think anybody's talking about. No, keep all 82 games.
Right, I agree with you.
After about 65 to 70, I think most of us know who each team is. So if you could cut it to 65 or 70 games and then add in and play in tournament in the middle of the season, I think that would be fantastic. Okay, the next section on hot and cold is UFC Fight Night. This one is, I think it's Fight Night 145, and it's the first one on Network ESPN. It's Rafael Assunção taking on Marlon Moraes in the main event. I'm going to tell you, this is a UFC card that is purely and entirely for the hardcore. This is purely for the hardcore. Like, I'm going to watch every fight like I always do, but I know that that's the case. First of all, Assunção is a really, really good fighter who almost never finishes. Almost never gets a finish. Most of his decisions are very close decisions because he doesn't finish. And so that's a problem for a lot of people. And that's one of the reasons why he's not a more popular fighter. That's a reason why he hasn't been able to get title shots, despite the fact that he's going on huge winning streaks and so on and so forth. But I would venture to say there's a lot of people that don't even know who he is, right? And that's just what it is. He does, like I said, he doesn't get finishes. So the co-main event is interesting because it normally would have been the main event, but Jose Aldo asked not to be in the main event because he didn't want to go 5 rounds, which is kind of strange. But he's saying that his career is coming to an end. He knows that he's fine with it. He has a really tough matchup in front of him with Renato Moicano. Moicano is an excellent striker, really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. That's a tough fight. The card is packed with Brazilians because the fight is, the event is in Brazil. So I don't know. Are you going to watch this?
I'm definitely going to watch the top 2 fights. I don't care to ever watch Damian Maia fight again.
No, wow. That's so disrespectful.
I'm just saying, hey, I mean, I told you, man, like there's only a certain amount of older fighters that I'm going to be super into watching. And most of them are going to be the heavier guys when age is less of a factor. But when guys are doing it just to do it,
Damian Maia is not doing it just to do it. Damian Maia may be the greatest Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner in the history of the sport.
Yeah, and history is my issue. He is 41. He's 41. He's a 170-pound, 41-year-old fighter, and I am cold on that. It just is what it is, man. I hot on too many 41-year-olds under 180 pounds. So that having been said, the top 2 cards are interesting. I mean, the top 2 fights on the card are interesting, particularly because bantamweight is such a hot division right now. With Dillashaw and Cejudo and that fallout. So it'll be interesting to see if the result of this fight, because a decisive result of this fight could affect contendership in the division very heavily. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I'm kind of more like lukewarm on it. And even being a
But your boy Damian Maya's fighting, man.
but I have to show Damian Maya some respect. I do. I can't. I'm not going to talk about Damian Maya like he's just some trash. I mean,
I didn't say he was trash.
I mean, Damian Maya is like, as a person who appreciates Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if somebody's the best at, or arguably the best at it ever, I have to show him some love.
Dude, my man, he's lost 3 fights in a row and he's 41 years old. Stop talking about how he the best.
But it's important to note the people that he's lost.
Of course, he's lost to the people at the top. I get it, and I'm not saying he's super trash. I'm just saying when a guy is clearly on the downturn and he's getting older, that don't put me on hot on the subject, and they don't put you on hot either.
No, it's not. I'm not hot. I'm not. But I'd say, but I would never say.
I
don't care to see Damian Maya fight ever again.
Yeah,
I would say
chills out.
I would say.
But I said right here on the show, when Anderson Silva was 36, I wanted him to freeze it in carbonite and stop right there. You know.
Yeah. Now I will say this. I'll throw this out there. Johnny Walker is fighting on the main card, and that is something that people definitely need to watch. He is one of the most exciting light heavyweights that I've seen. Yeah. And so he's definitely somebody to watch. But yeah, I would definitely say I'm lukewarm on it too.
Yeah, this is a chill card. I'm probably going to watch it with my brother and enjoy it. But like you said, it's a lukewarm card.
All right, next up on Hot and Cold is Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 is coming in April. They were supposed to be a combat cast on Wednesday, but there's the place that it takes place is in Chicago, and because it's 50 million below, that's not going to happen. So it's not going to go down. But where are you with Mortal Kombat 11?
Oh, I'm super hot on Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I got to tell you briefly about my thing with Mortal Kombat. So I was arcade kid with Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. And in the local arcades, I was good at the game. I stopped playing the series from 2 all the way up to Mortal Kombat 10. Did not touch Mortal Kombat. And for people who aren't familiar, I am a guy who's a fighting game player, right? I could play fighting games. I've played them seriously. I've played in a tournament. I think technically the last tournament I entered was Street Fighter 5, but I'm trashing that game. Last one I entered in and actually beat people was Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So I play these games. I like them very much. But Mortal Kombat is my #1 fighting game that I can be casual in. They put together such a great package with the story, with the arcade modes, with the various side modes, with the acquiring gear and all this that they've added in Injustice. They do a really good job. The fatality's super over the top and silly and a lot of fun. The artwork gets better every time. It feels better every time. So I'm really, really excited for Mortal Kombat 11. It's guaranteed purchase. I doubt I will take it seriously as a competitive game, but I will take at least 2 characters, learn how to fight with them, go online a little bit and unlock stuff. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I would say so. I am definitely in the same boat. I am very hot on Mortal Kombat. To be honest, I don't know. I may be getting a little old because the fatalities are so brutal. They actually are making me cringe in real life. So
they're getting real brutal. That's the issue,
man.
If y'all seen Cassie Cage's last year, that was crazy.
Man, I mean, it's kind of crazy. But Garrus is a very intriguing character that I'm interested in seeing. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I'll add the last thing is I do want to see more of the cast. I know they're going to add a lot of characters. It's probably going to be a bunch of guest characters. They do a good job with that. They've had some really good ones in the past, like Jason and stuff. But I do want to see more of the Mortal Kombat 10 characters, Mortal Kombat X characters in the game, because I definitely, if Cassie Cage ain't in the game, my heart gonna be broken.
Yeah. I would like to see some of the even older ones like Nightwolf. Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool to see him redone, especially because it's been a long time. So
for sure,
we're talking about what are you playing, right? So not going to spend a lot of time on this probably, but right about now, man, everybody knows I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty, but I found this new mode that's been added. It's called the Blackjack gun game. It was in Black Ops 3, and I didn't play it in Black Ops 3. But this mode is, it really kind of touches on a lot of the things that I like. I'm a free for all guy. You know, I play a little bit of team deathmatch and a little bit of blackout, but it's mostly free for all. Blackjack is cool to me because it eliminates the perks and the score streaks, and it really kind of doesn't even matter what character you choose. You can pick whichever one you want, because you're really just trying to, every time you get a kill, your gun levels up, and you're trying to hurry up, and like the first person to move through all of the guns is the winner. And it's really cool because you can level up all of your weapons in it. So all your kills and stuff are adding up. And so you're able to level up your weapons throughout the process. And it's really pretty awesome, man. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I'm probably going to play a little bit of it once we stop because nice. It's been pretty fun, man. So that's what I've been playing right now more than anything. Got to get my sports games in, but that for sure is something I've been playing a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for myself, I've gotten back to Destiny and Overwatch because Spider-Man took me off of first-person shooters for a little bit.
I bet it did.
Spider-Man, I ran through that whole game, DLCs and everything, in like 3 days, I think. And after that, I was so satisfied that I didn't play any games except a little tiny bit of 2K. But what I did pick up, because Spider-Man is still in my belly, I picked up Infamous Second Son. We got it in PS4, one of the free games a while ago. I heard it was a good game, and I started playing it the other day. It ages really, really well. Yeah. The aiming is bad. They don't have enough sensitivity on it. The modern options for sensitivity are much better, but everything else is pretty good. The graphics are good. The acting's good. The art direction is good. Like when the way the shadows are played on the characters, it is a fun game. And I thought maybe Spider-Man might have ruined it for me because, they're both superheroes in the city kind of thing. Superpowers in the city. But no, it didn't ruin it for me at all, man. It's a good game. It's a good game. I recommend it. It's a good retro game, and was really way ahead of its time for early PS4 to look as good as it does.
Yeah, man. It's funny how a lot of some of those early PS4 games really still stand up from a visual standpoint, which lets you know that we haven't seen a huge graphical jump since the beginning of the beginning of the consoles and where we are right now. So I think it actually puts a lot of pressure on PlayStation 5 and whatever the next Xbox is, because, a lot of people will tell you that NBA 2K14 still is the best looking 2K game. Yeah. People say that, and they, depending on the render you're looking at, sometimes they have a point, because there are some renders from 2K14 that look better than the ones that they have now. So the LeBron James kind of looked sick and nauseous, but it still looked good though. He had like the white lip thing going, so I don't know what that was about, but that's what we're playing right now. But we're gonna close it out. I know Nelson has something that he has to say before we leave, though, and the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. This rant, I'm gonna make this as direct as possible without being mean. I wish that the Anthem demo didn't have the technical problems it had. Not for the fans of Anthem to have a good time. Not so that the hardworking people at BioWare could have their product seen in its proper light, but because I think it had so many technical problems that a large amount of people, not everyone, are overlooking at how unimaginative that game is. That game has, to draw a comparison, one of my favorite games ever is Skate, right? You remember Skate?
Yep.
So for people who don't know, Skate was the next iteration of skateboarding games after Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk was super arcadey, and Skate just made controlling the skateboard a dream, right? Just a dream. But on top of that, Skate also was a good game. Anthem, controlling the javelins is a dream, right? You get your freelancer, you get in the javelin, you do your Tony Stark thing, you fly around. This is dope. But it's like if in Skate, all they had was a swimming pool and nothing else. And it's like, well, what do? Well, you go to that swimming pool, you skate around it a bunch of times, and you get a new skateboard, and you go back to that swimming pool, and you skate around a bunch of times. And eventually you get to decide what color the wheels of your skateboard are. you need to design an actual game around this and have character. And if you're BioWare, we're used to you have an excellent story. And I know that's very difficult in an open world game as a service type game. But still, if you just look at the hub, and I hate to do this because my main profession is as an artist, and I don't like to call out other art teams or anything, but it just looks very generic. Everything is brown. It looks like some Persian bazaar for some reason, where everybody's dressed in like saris and, you know, tank tops, but you know, have this technology all over it, but there's no obvious reason why. And when I say reason why, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there should be a character telling you, well, we're wearing this because of this and this is here because of that. No, there are tricks that we do in design that visually show you this is an established world and there's a reason even if you don't know it yet, right? I was looking through the screen captures of Destiny actually, and Destiny 2, they have so many crazy environments that just the environments where I'm looking at it, I'm like, that looks like a fully established, well thought out world. I'm not going to get into the reasons why that happened. It's all technical, like art direction stuff. But this game is getting away with really great controls on the javelins and the Frostbite engine. And everything else about the game is like literally 100% what you expect with no real new ideas in it. And the combat, the last thing I'm going to say about it, people keep calling this a looter shooter. It's not a looter shooter in the sense that you are not supposed to be shooting your gun the entire time you play. Your gameplay is supposed to be this balance of your powers, comboing with the powers of other people's freelancers or javelins or whatever, and flying around and using mobility, right? In games where those are the things you do, usually the powers are much cooler, the enemies are much cooler, the combos that you do are much cooler. There's essentially so far only one combo in the game, which is you prime it, I detonate it. That's not, as soon as, people are going to be saying this about 2 weeks after the game comes out, if not a week. As soon as the new car smell of running around like Iron Man and this Frostbite engine world wears off, people are going to be talking about how there's nothing to do. And the reason they're going to be talking about that is not just because of the activities themselves, not just because of the mission structure themselves, but because the thing that people are saying that's so great, the combat, only one side of the combat is great. Your side. I just came off of Spider-Man, which is an action game where you do throw projectiles and you do fly around a whole lot. And you know what's challenging about Spider-Man? How the enemies behave. You know what I mean? And Anthem does not bring that to the table. And I really think that this is an example of corporations coming in and taking the imagination and creativity out of something and just trying to do what they think makes money to create a quote-unquote new IP. And for that, Anthem is already, I know it's early and maybe we'll see more, but from a structural standpoint, I was very, very disappointed in the Anthem demo.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It to me, it lacked an it factor. Everything, the colors look muted. The action itself, the satisfaction of firing any of the weapons just didn't feel good. The impact of the projectiles or the weapons or the bullets or whatever hitting whatever the target is just didn't feel like something that gives you that keep playing it kind of a feel. And those are things that are hard to kind of put into words and say, this is this, or this is, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. But it's kind of one of them things, you know it when you see it, or you know it when you don't see it. Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt, man. It really felt like something that's really been blown up to be this huge title, this huge release, arguably the biggest release in February, arguably the biggest release of the first quarter. And I wasn't blown away. I didn't hate it, like oh my God, the worst game ever, but it just didn't feel special. And to me, it was presented as something that should be special.
And when you say didn't hate it, when I say what I say about the game, this is not to say that it's a quote unquote bad game. I think it will become a bad game either when you don't have the kind of friends to play with, or you've done everything, then it'll be something that you're only doing as a chore, that you're really bored, but you don't want to fall behind. And for those people, it'll be a bad game. Overall, the graphics aren't bad. I mean, the graphics are good. It's just I think the art style is holding the graphics back a little bit. Everything is kind of generic, but it's not a bad game. It's just a game that's gonna be solid. And from a company as special as BioWare has been, I know they've had a lot of talent turnover. I've come to, and for a game that's been in development for a while and it's got a big old budget behind it and they're really pushing real hard, like you said, I really would hope for special. And we've gotten a lot of special games in recent memory. You know, Spider-Man and Red Dead and God of War and on and on and on. And, you know, this game is, people think it's going to be a big success just because of how big it is and Destiny and all this other stuff. But I think this could be the, what is that game called? I'm not going to remember the name of it now, but the game that came out next to Overwatch, if you're in the comment sections, you know what I'm talking about, where it was the MOBA game from the company Gearbox that makes Borderlands.
Okay.
And it came out at the wrong time because it came out when Overwatch was coming out, and it also came out when everybody had decided we're playing Dota and League of Legends. That's it. We don't need another one of these kinds of games. And I think that in the case of Anthem, it could be that. Or you could say Titanfall was also that, where people are saying, I already play The Division, which I know has already had its year of growing pains and done massive improvements. They can say, I'm already down with Destiny. They're free from Activision, and now I want to see what Bungie does. I already play Warframe. It's free. And I think this could be the kid standing in musical chairs and actually do worse than people think it's going to do.
Yeah, I could imagine that. I definitely could imagine that happening. We'll see what happens once that full version comes out. I believe it's February 22nd is when it comes out. So we'll see. They definitely have some work to do because they definitely had some feedback from people after the demo. But that'll wrap it up for us today, this first episode on the new channel. I appreciate everybody who migrated over. Appreciate anybody's efforts to share these episodes. And we will be back next week. And also, if you, as usual, if you miss or can't sit through the entire show, they always come through in segments. And so you'll be able to watch those throughout the week leading up to next week's show. But as usual, I appreciate you watching as always. From my man, Nelson Blake, peace.